Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the Nerdy Occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone. 2020 freaking 3 already.
And our second co-host, the primordial source of evil in comics, Corrupt.
Yo, I'm getting older and dying every minute.
And I am your host / Time Lord wannabe, the Brainstorm Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, but I just want to say once again for the record, if either of you dies, I'm getting the necromancy. Don't make me get the necromancy.
One step closer. I'm like one step closer to being an old man. It makes me pretty sad, I'll be honest with you.
Yes, but I have various health issues, so there's absolutely no reason I should not die before both of you. So, seriously, if either of you dies before me, I'm getting the necromancy.
I'll be honest, I've been old for like a decade. Inside.
Yeah, I've had that same thing. My family always used to joke I was whatever age I was, going on like 75 or something. Like even when I was like 5 or 6 years old, that was the joke in my house, was he's like 7 going on 75 or something like that.
Hello, Dragtron. Hello, Chrononaut.
You're just in time, gentlemen.
Yeah. So this week we're just going to be covering some stuff that occurred in the month of December, DC related at least.
DC did it stupid again, and now we have to talk about it again.
Hopefully next week we'll be able to like cover some stuff that already came out. And don't worry, we'll get to that. So first things first, kind of something I've talked about a few times. That being the details about the Justice League X Ruby anime crossover. And this is on comicspeak.com, written by Timur Dar. Is that name? I'm sorry. And it's published December 15th, 2022. And I'll get a better image for this later as we go on with this article. It's actually pretty brief, so. First details revealed for Justice League X Ruby anime crossover film. The worlds of DC and Rooster Teeth collide in spring 2023. Okay. Last San Diego Comic-Con, Warner Brothers Home Entertainment announced its slate of DC animated movies for next year, including Justice League X Ruby, Superheroes, and Huntsman Part 1. Today, courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter, new details for the film were revealed, including the voice cast. Here is the official description of the film. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, and Vixen are transported to the strange world of Remnant and find themselves turned into teenagers.
This is a minor gripe for me, but I don't know why we all just decided that Cyborg is on the Justice League now, but he needs to go back to being a Teen Titan.
I liked him as a Teen Titan.
Okay, so my issue
Like,
is,
he basically just took over Martian Manhunter's place, and I'm not okay with it.
really did. I just now fucking realized that. My issue with it is, why not just bring the Titans or the Teen Titans, make them a new Justice League, you know? Because I think they've done that in the past.
Because DC hates ever addressing the passage of time. It's their biggest weakness. It's why they have to constantly reboot the goddamn universe.
Giant Turtle asks, they kicked out John? Or John?
He's not one of the original 7 founding members anymore, and that's part of what annoys me. Is everyone has just decided ever since the New 52 that Cyborg is the one Teen Titan who gets the upgrade now, and as a result, we don't talk about John Jones anymore, which is bullshit.
We don't talk about John.
No.
The thing that bugs me is that they're turned into teenagers, too. Like, that's...
I mean, it's... The main characters of the setting are usually teenagers, if I'm not misremembering. So, like, that kind of makes sense.
That doesn't make sense to me. Like, if they're traveling between the multiverse, that doesn't mean they turn into teenagers.
Because a young, inexperienced Justice League is more entertaining to the writers than a competent older one. That's why.
I don't have an issue with it, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't have much of an issue with it. It's just
I get where Brainstormer's coming from, because I would have rather just seen a proper Justice League crossing over with the Ruby universe, but especially because they're doing the multiverse displacement thing anyway, instead of making a version of the Justice League that would work in universe, which Brainstorm has already spent many hours going through with me and asking me to help him make a alternate universe. So there is already better versions of this concept out there somewhere in the interwebs. But my point is that, like, I would have liked to have seen just a version of the Justice League in this universe, but then again, I understand it because teenagers are the main characters of this setting. So it's a quasi anime, so sure.
Like, my thing is this, right? They're ultimately the same characters, they're just teenagers. That's why I don't have much of an issue with it.
Honestly, I could agree with that. I think it's... Well, I'll get into it when I actually pull up the actual still that they show.
Anyway,
images, because they're
shall we move ahead?
Yeah, it's the rest of the description of the plot. Meanwhile, Remnant heroes Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang must combine forces with the Justice League to uncover why their planet has been mysteriously altered before a superpowered Grimm destroys everything. I'll be honest, this isn't really... Like, I know the lore. I've studied the lore of Ruby. But
he's written better versions of the lore as well, because the writers weren't going to do it.
Honestly, I can't even really fault the writers. I think it's a whole complicated process behind the scenes that I've come to understand. So I'm not gonna really put too much blame on them. But okay. The film features the voices of Natalie Ellen Lind as Wonder Woman / Diana Prince, Who is that? I'm gonna look it up real quick just because.
To IMDb, everyone.
I was going to do Google.
Off in a way.
Okay. Okay. Okay, she's really worked in Fox. Are the Gifted, Gotham.
Oh, she's more of a live action actress. That's somewhat annoying when they hire actors rather than proper voice actors.
I could be fine with it as long as. I mean, Sam Witwer did a lot of live action stuff before he played Darth Maul or Starkiller. So
Fair enough. It's usually a sign that the people behind the scenes are prioritizing name talent rather than actual skill at voice acting when they do that.
right.
Usually, there are exceptions, but usually when a person has more experience in live action acting than they do in voice acting, it's because whoever was behind the scenes didn't prioritize good voice acting,
Right.
which is bad.
Okay. So Chandler Riggs as Superman / Clark Kent. You know, who was Carl on The Walking Dead. I don't really have anything to say about that.
I don't really have a point of reference for him outside of that, so I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I don't, like.
It's like I would have to see it to more or less to gauge it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Nat Wolff as Batman / Bruce Wayne. Again, I don't like the actors that they're choosing for the character for the DC characters. I don't really have a problem with.
I mean, I still haven't forgiven Nat Wolff for bastardizing Light Yagami in the Netflix adaptation, but that's not this project's fault. I still haven't forgiven Nat Wolff for what he did to Light. Or I guess Light Turner, because they had to Americanize him even further. Why they didn't just Americanize his name, his first name, I'll never know. But
because it's a callback. It's an homage.
Fuck
your homage. Homages actually have to be respectful.
Ruby Mainstays reprising the role, include Lisa Jones, Ruby, Cara Eberly as Weiss, and Zachary Blake and Barbara Dunkelman as Yang. Them I have no problem with. I will say they've gotten better over time. Like if you go back to the earlier seasons.
Okay, what is that clicking noise? Am I the only one hearing that clicking noise?
No, I was hearing it too. Corrupt?
Huh? What clicking noise?
There's a clicking noise that almost vaguely sounds like someone imitating fapping noises.
Oh my god.
I assume typing.
Yeah, I'm typing something, but I'm not fat. I'll stop the typing. Hold on. I was writing something.
Okay.
Alright.
Other actors include. Okay, I'm going to butcher this. I know it. Ozioma Akaha, I think, as Vixen, which is okay. If this is supposed to technically be based, because I think it's supposed to be based off the comic, like this crossover. Granted, they had the characters exist within Ruby, or Remnant. It was Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, not Vixen.
I kind of understand why they didn't use her, because people don't particularly like Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, all that much.
I think my problem really is too many human Green Lanterns.
Yeah, it is weird that Earth has like what 5 Green Lanterns now, whereas most
Yeah.
sectors only get one. And yeah, they did kind of explain it in that like Earth sector is very important and is like the keystone to the universe. Like usually in both Marvel and DC, there's some reason why Earth is particularly special, but it's still a little bit annoying that like Earth has an entire squadron of Green Lanterns, most of whom aren't always active at the same time, which is also annoying.
Yeah.
But each, basically every other sector gets one Green Lantern. Like every um Class M planet gets one Green Lantern usually.
Okay, I looked it up. Don't I don't think I've ever seen this actress before, so I don't really have anything to say on her. Jim Brown as Pyrrha, Tiana Camacho as Glinda, and Dinescu as Oscar, Jason Douglas, John David Arrego Jr. as the Flash, Barry Allen, and Rolf. Okay. Smith Ireland as Nora, Miles Luna as John McCormick. Sorry, I'm just trying to read all these. Oh wait, no, that's weird.
Hmm.
Well, apparently they do have a Green Lantern here.
Hmm.
Don't specify, but given the name, Jeannie Tirado as Green Lantern, I'm assuming a female.
Okay, I guess they do have a Green Lantern. Never mind.
Okay. Well, this is a voice actress actually, so. Okay. And True Valentino as Cyborg. Okay. Megan Fitzmartin penned the script, which I believe she was also the writer for the DC Ruby comics, which, from what I've heard from the reviews, are not good comics.
Uh-huh. That's not a good sign.
With Ruby's Kerry Shawcross directing, which he is one of the lead writers for Ruby proper. So,
Hmm.
film hails from Rooster Teeth Animation, Warner Brothers Animation, DC, and Warner Bros. Home Entertainment, with Kimberly as Monroe, Ethan Spalding, and Jim Crete producing, Laura Yates serving as vice producer, Sam Register and Michael Uslan executive producing. Created by the late Monty when Ruby is the first Western produced anime series distributed in Japan and has since become an instant hit, branching into various media. In fact, last year, DC Comics published a Ruby slash Justice League miniseries that more than likely inspired some cues or elements for this anime project. Expect Justice League X Ruby, Superheroes and Huntsman, Part 1 to arrive on digital in spring. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wait, this is going to be a multiple part thing? I thought this was just going to be a one-off crossover.
So did I. I thought it was just going to be one off myself. I didn't think it was going to have multiple parts to it.
Yeah. Okay, let me pull up the full image, or the actual image
Mhm.
of the still I had seen that made me want to cover this. And I actually had a discussion with Dalton about 2 weeks ago
Mhm.
about this still, and I see my issue with it is Giantron, what do you mean by canon? Are you talking canon to Ruby or canon to DC? Because I don't think it is. I think it's just like an Elseworlds thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's just an else world. Yeah, it's not canon to anything.
at least not yet. Don't underestimate the writer's ability to shoot themselves in the foot, but at least not yet.
Right. So I think I talked about this before when we heard the first announcement of this happening. and I pulled up these exact same designs, which are from the comics themselves. I don't like the designs they have. It just feels
Uh,
um, how do I put it? It just they like Batman and Superman just like their costumes. Well, I think the over designed, I guess, was kind of what I was trying to say. Um, but also speaking on like a just a technical level, this still, if this is supposed to be from like the actual movie, it again it doesn't look good.
I mean, like the S on Superman's chest, that's not designed very well. It overlaps the zipper, which was a weird choice.
Um,
Um,
the thing I was going to mention was like the models, like the characters,
they look weird. Yeah, they do.
they look like they're put on the like the background is a painting, which obviously it is. They don't look like
They
they
don't feel like they fit in the world.
yeah like in the environment, like they're not part of it.
Yeah, they feel like they feel like free model, like free 3D model someone grabbed and then just like put like pasted them into a screenshot of Ruby.
Yeah. Um, Also like lighting and stuff. Like I used to draw a lot, so I have somewhat of a not to sound. I'm not trying to.
No, I draw too. I draw too, so I know what you mean.
Yeah, like the lighting, the shadows. They both don't feel as harsh as I think they could be. Or
I mean, this isn't the most. It doesn't help that they're both like they both stands in such a stiff way. Like they, like when you look at Ruby and you look at Weiss, like they look more natural. They like their poses are relaxed, whereas Batman and Superman are basically standing identically and in such a weird way. Like,
Also, this is just me from an outsider perspective, so please feel free to tell me to shut up if I need to shut up. But I find it weird that Batman and Superman's aesthetics look so different because I mean obviously they're always different, but I what I mean is it doesn't even look like they come from the same universe. Which, if their aesthetic changes are as a result of them being pulled into the Ruby universe, one would think that that style would somehow predominate. But Batman's design almost looks like he comes from from like a more militarized setting, whereas Superman is leaning more into the like steampunkish aesthetic that Ruby is, I think, supposed to have. So like I'm confused.
oh, I see what you mean. Like they don't look like they're from the same universe, basically.
Which you would think because they, well, are from the same universe and they got pulled into the same universe, whatever aesthetic warping effects the universe changing had on them would be consistent with both of them.
Yeah, basically. I feel like Superman, like I said, I feel like Superman would benefit if his design was like Superman and Batman would benefit from like a touch like tweaking of their design a bit so that it fits more with the universe, with the Ruby
Like
universe.
wouldn't a way to Rubyize Batman's design be almost more Zorro-esque because like as far as I understood it, Ruby's design aesthetic was more steampunkish or
uh,
more like pulp sort of
uh,
hero-esque.
in certain areas, I will argue that it does have that, and it's like a weird combination of both science fiction in certain areas with traditional, like I'd say I'd argue like 1920s, maybe 30s aesthetics. Like
Right.
Yeah,
So that being the case, then Batman should be almost like Masked Avenger or Zorro-esque or Shadow-esque.
which
Where,
makes
where whereas he's rocking this like military police getup that almost makes it look quasi futuristic, and that doesn't work either for the setting or for Batman in this case.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, this angle, this image is not helping either.
I think the image itself just is unflattering.
Yeah. I also want to point out again, I'm going off more second, maybe even third hand information. But apparently this, because Rooster Teeth as a company's kind of fallen and kind of fucked over a lot of like animators and stuff in order to make this and season 9 of RWBY.
Yeah.
You guys can look that up for yourselves because I'm not like I'm more just bringing that up. And if this is supposed to be the result of all that kind of effort and stuff put in, and like just kind of how they treat those artists terribly, it's kind of really sad. Like this doesn't even look fully rendered, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't.
No,
Um,
I've literally seen better DeviantArt stuff.
what's weird is I've seen like web animation that have similar like styles to this, like kind of pseudo anime deal. And it looks good. Granted, it took a lot of effort on the animator's part. Yeah, this just doesn't. I don't know. Like it bugs me to an extent because I'm a big DC guy and I'm also a fan of RWBY. Like I grew up watching it. I saw it when it first came out, and to be honest, I don't think I'm even going to buy this. Just a general principle of not supporting like shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I just it feels like a real missed opportunity. And I guess I also wanted a way to like kind of talk a little bit about my both rewrite and I'd actually written a full-on actual crossover idea, which again you can if you go on Twitter if you want to. I actually wrote an entire thread, like 45 tweets, I think, of a legit crossover, like multiverse style crossover.
Damn.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then he also made a version of RWBY that has the Justice Society in it because
it made more sense to me
let me
that
see.
they fit more in RWBY than Justice League.
You have so much more energy as a writer than I do. Like, holy shit.
Dude,
It
I
takes me a minute to
love
write.
and hate it, to be honest. I love and hate that I have that much energy as a writer.
Like, it takes me a day to write up a few pages. It takes you like 5 minutes. Holy shit.
literally every Thursday we hang out, and every Thursday, almost without fail, he comes to me and goes, "I did another thing," and I go, "What did you do?" And then we sit there for 2 hours while he explains to me in great detail this new idea he has, and my dumbass, my everything needs world building, everything needs complex lore, fucking obsessive compulsive disordered ass, then takes his one-off idea and turns it into an extensive universe, and then it's weeks later, and we basically turned this one-off idea he had into an extensive universe
Well,
because I can't fucking help myself either.
like I said, like the world, like I said, I just do not have that kind of it. What like for me, writing a few pages takes like hours.
Well, to
For
be
you,
fair,
it takes.
you're constantly on death's door, so that's probably why.
That's a good point.
To be fair, it does take me some time as well with certain things, like mainly because like it's this weird like up and down slope of like motivation to write something because I'll have that initial spark.
Like how long has it taken us to actually get it to the point that the Lionhearted is a full rounded universe? I think we've been on that for I think we've been adding bits and pieces to that for like a year now.
I'd say about a year and a half now.
And we're just now getting to the point where we're like writing the outlines for phase, like the actual script outlines for phase 1.
Yeah.
To be fair, we still need an artist, and we're probably going to spend the next year or so looking for an artist to collaborate with. But that's neither here nor there.
Out of curiosity, you also work on Chrono's story too. I'm sure he's asked.
No, we don't have the energy to deal with a third person when we're hanging out. Like Grim, we were working on the Lionhearted Universe version of Dracula and also the expansive vampire lore of the Lionhearted Universe, because that is a thing in the Lionhearted Universe. The vampires are basically blood bank mafias, more or less. But point being, Grim showed up one day and completely derailed our lore conversation for like 3 hours, to the point that when we later revisited this section of lore, we both kind of did a double take and went, "Why can't we remember having this conversation, even though we know we both had it?" And then it was like, "Oh, because Grim showed up halfway through and completely derailed the conversation."
What did Grim talk about? What did you talk about, Grim?
Like we were discussing the various different kinds of, like, the various different factions of vampires, the various different like vampire mafias in this setting. And Grim, like, I had an idea of how to use, I think, like 5 different vampire types, and he just added like 15 other ones, and half of them we didn't even really have a place for, because he wanted to kind of, he was playing more with like the Christianized version, and we had already established the Sons of Judas, I think is what we called the like more Christianized vampires.
Sorry, I want to kind of just kind of stay on topic here. Now going back to this, like I said, I have 2 versions. One I'm currently working on, which is the Justice Society one, and the actual Justice League RWBY one, which I wrote like over a year ago on Twitter. The idea for that one, because here's my thing with like crossovers. The thing I always find more interesting about crossovers is the character interactions. To me, that's what kind of makes a crossover work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I legitimately had to also kind of revamp the Justice League in order to have better character interactions. Again, this is for the crossover version. I think I put Dr. Fate, Nightwing, Shining Knight, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Superman, and Wonder Woman on that Justice League for that crossover for RWBY. And like I decided which ones would. It was just like, yeah, and they fought Felix Faust, who teamed up with the bad guys of RWBY. So.
Mm-hmm.
Same, though, also the universe interactions.
I'm I'm just curious. So Chrono introduced like 15 versions of Christianized vampires?
No. It was Grim who did it.
Oh, Grim. I'm sorry.
This was not Chrono having a bipolarism. Thank God, because that would have also probably, we basically have tried our darndest to make sure that the host section that we usually do our writing conversations in is only accessible by me and Brainstormer, because every time someone else comes in, it always ends up derailing our like creative mojo.
Oh wait, I'm a part of the podcast. Why don't I have access? What the fuck?
You should be in the Discords.
Oh, hold on. Wait, do I have access to that section you're talking about?
That is a good question, considering that neither Brainstormer nor myself can figure out how to update the goddamn permissions.
You know.
I'll figure it out. I think it currently can only hold 2 people. Like, people can go in, but they can't speak unless it's only 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out.
Do you want me to update the permissions for you then?
I think only I can.
Yeah, I'm not sure how how we ultimately set that up, because every time this happens, like we'll get into a really good back and forth on like Lionheart universe stuff, and then someone will just randomly come in and it'll like just completely and utterly derail the fucking.
Look, okay, so back to podcast thing.
Mhm.
So the thing, I do find it interesting. Well, I kind of wish they had gone with like these characters exist, like an alternate universe where they have these characters existing in the Ruby universe, because that's interesting, and
Which is why he ultimately went with the more standardized Justice Society one, which also ended up fixing like half the lore that was never established in Ruby, because apparently, according to what Brainstormer has told me about the way the Ruby writers work, is they'll just constantly introduce things and then they'll never like elaborate or address the things ever again. Like they constantly violate the Chekhov's gun rule. They'll constantly establish a MacGuffin and then never elaborate on the MacGuffin.
or keep it vague enough that it's open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Which is, in my opinion, is just lazy world building. I mean, I get it if it's I get it if it's a writing choice, but it ambiguity can very often turn from a writing choice to a I'm just too lazy to put a definitive answer on this. And so it's the audience's job to figure it out.
Right. Again, I won't say it wasn't that. I will say it's not that hard to write lore for Ruby because it's there, like on paper. The stuff is interesting.
They just never address it.
You just got to put in a little more effort to expand on it, I guess.
It's the audience job to do their job for them because they can't be bothered.
Like I was saying, the War of Ruby is interesting. One, because it is a very fantastical, like anime style world, and putting an element that is almost alien in a sense, like superheroes, in this world, is interesting. And so that's kind of why like I started working on that Justice Society thing. Although I will admit it was somewhat hard because I had to figure out how to naturally incorporate it and not just have them stick in there. Because I'll be honest, I've read fan fictions that both of like incorporating like Marvel or DC, mostly Marvel stuff. Like so many fan fictions of like Marvel and DC, which makes no sense to me. Because DC has that kind of more like mythical style to it, or fantastical setting.
I imagine it's because Marvel won the culture, the zeitgeist game.
Yeah, people are more familiar with Marvel as a franchise, therefore they stick Marvel in everything.
Pretty much.
That's fair, and I'm not. And honestly, there are some good fan fictions of that. It's just like Marvel is more set in modern stuff, while DC is more timeless and.
Yeah.
DC is Coke, Marvel is Pepsi, basically.
One thing I like about DC is that, like you mentioned, it's timeless. You can take Batman from any era and kind of like reference it, whereas Marvel sort of dates a lot of their
because they have to be contemporary world outside your window. Therefore, if the world outside your window changes, then so too must the universe.
Right.
The world outside my window changed from like Dalton to Brainstormer, I guess. There you go. From white to brown.
Badum-ching.
Why do they have to match though? Sometimes the discrepancy is the interesting part. That's what Dragon Turtles.
Yeah, but you have to be particularly skilled to make that work. To make the discrepancy harmonious rather than disconcerting. It's a lot easier to flesh out a world that has some sort of similarity than it is to even out or iron out the inconsistencies in worlds that don't make any fucking sense together.
Right.
I really don't like Superman's S. Why is it just like a blot of yellow with with an outline?
They're
That's
trying to go for like a gold insignia type thing, I
That's
think.
fucking awful looking. Holy shit.
I can see the comic version.
It's worse. It's
It
it's
covers
worse.
his whole torso.
Like, at least Batman's actually compliments him. Like, this is just awful.
Yeah, but there again, you have kind of the does not belong in this setting thing where it's like,
I mean, I give you that. I granted, it's just that, like, I'm going from like a purely aesthetics of like Batman's logo actually complements the outfit, whereas Superman's is like it's just this blot of yellow on top of a zipper, and
yeah,
it's so awful.
Yeah, I think
it does not work. Yeah,
yellow. I think the lighting kind of makes it look like mustard yellow.
Oh, it does look like mustard yellow.
yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
it's supposed to be a gold insignia of some description, but it doesn't. It's not coming off that way.
Sorry. Yeah. But can I go back to the question Dragonsville asked? To me, okay, like the thing was for me, like the reason why I wanted to like incorporate the characters into the world of Ruby was right. No, actually, okay. Let me backtrack on that. The reason why I think DC would work a lot in Ruby is because like it is Ruby is very fantastical setting, and DC is very fantastical in its kind of tone, I suppose, overall of its world.
The difference between DC and Marvel is, Marvel are men trying to be gods, whereas DC is gods trying to be men.
Right. But the thing, and I kind of go back what I said is like I'm not saying I've read good fan fictions of like Marvel characters being put into the Ruby universe. Personally, I just think DC could work even better.
Don't reinvent the wheel when you have two settings that are already somewhat compatible with each other.
No, not that.
Basically, DC, like you said, has the fantastic setting. It has the fantastic characters. Like it's made to slot into a fantasy setting or a high tech setting. Like it's more versatile and flexible
Yeah.
than Marvel, which is
For this particular universe.
yeah.
My issue, what we're thinking, kind of going back to fan fictions. I've read DC crossover fan fictions with Ruby. None of them are ever really good. I'll be honest.
Because in order to do proper fan fiction, you actually have to understand the things you're fanficking about.
No, it's
basically.
not even that. It's not even that. Like, one, they're kind of shorter than the Marvel ones.
Yeah, that's the result of Marvel being the dominant franchise, basically, and or DC just not being able to get their shit together.
There's also the issue for most of the founding members of the power scaling. Not sure I get what
He means they're too strong. He's referring to the power
He can't figure out how you could tell interesting stories when Superman can basically just one shot everyone or
yeah. Dragon Turtle has brought up this point before, where the founding members of the DCU are all like incredibly powerful, like Wonder Woman, for example, right? So you have to take into account how do you fit powerful, like godlike beings into another universe and have that crossover work.
and once more for the sake of the argument, I'm going to point out that power scaling isn't nearly as important as power typing.
I mean, in Superman, the animated series, like, Superman gets beaten up all the goddamn time by, like, lasers and, like, robots and shit like that. Like, it might.
Lovecraftian entities.
Exactly, and just robots and shit like that. Like, humans with laser beams can, like, hurt Superman. You don't have to make it to where he's this invincible godlike figure that can only
Well,
be hurt by kryptonite, you know?
and again, it's more about power typing. Like a person who has a very masterful use of one power could get the drop on Superman if they're it's the difference between a person with a sledgehammer and a person with a scalpel. In most cases, you would think that the person with the sledgehammer would win against the person with the scalpel. But if that person with the scalpel is very, very fucking good with a scalpel, then you're fucked. No matter how big that sledgehammer is.
Also, like, Ruby has, like, a lot of magic, and that's, like, a canonical weakness for Superman.
Yeah,
You know?
Superman has problems with electricity. He basically has problems with any massive energy discharge, but particularly magical energy fucks with him because
Yeah.
his powers are purely biological. Therefore, anything outside of the realm of the physical universe buggers him.
Right.
Let me see. Wait, hold on. Dragon Turtle says. Okay, so two people said something. Ahsoka's Katano Gaming said, "Oh God, this Ruby DC shit." And Dragon Turtle said, "But the Justice League is fairly well rounded, so I'm not sure how typing will apply here." All right, so like elaborate on that point, Dragon Turtle, so that like
He,
Dalton
he
and Brainstormer can go ahead,
I
Dalton.
I think he's saying that because of the various different powers of the Justice League, it doesn't quite work that way with the thing I said about typing. But
Okay.
the thing is, for one thing, there is no Martian Manhunter here, and Martian Manhunter would be the one that I would consider to be the almost instant win button because he has the various mental and telekinetic abilities that, for example, Superman doesn't have. My argument would be number one, if the setting of Ruby has enough unique magical abilities, which most of the semblances are unique magical abilities, they can be used to counter something like Wonder Woman or Superman. And Cyborg would be at a particular disadvantage in the Ruby setting because steampunk and like occasional sci-fi MacGuffins notwithstanding, there really isn't much technology for him to interface with in the
Uh,
Ruby universe.
yes and no.
Alright, Ahsoka,
What,
like,
what,
1 second. Ahsoka, it is crystal powered magic, but it's still magic. Like that's the
Well, I
point of
mean,
the
okay, so it's
magic.
complicated because it has like there are multiple different powers of different levels of magic. Like there is true magic, like magical energy, but that's kind of dead and gone by the time.
semblances being what remains basically of them.
Yeah. Dust itself, honestly, I'd argue is more of a resource like oil in Ruby, to be honest.
I think the point that I'm trying to make isn't so much that is that like when it comes to Superman, it isn't really a matter of discriminating between like different types of magic. There is no discrimination when it comes to Superman. Magic fucks him up.
Yeah,
Just as a general
like
concept.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on the level of someone like Constantine or someone like Zatanna or someone like Blue Devil or someone like Dr. Fate. Any amount of magic at all is going to fuck with
Just
Superman
yeah,
because his powers are purely biological. Hell, I mean the insta win button against Superman because of the way his powers actually mechanically operate is his cells metabolize solar radiation in a particular way, so just prevent him from absorbing solar radiation, and he's basically a dude.
they
So
they actually have drone armies. Like
yeah,
it's
well,
what
that's well, only really technically one of their countries or kingdoms has that, which is Atlas. As
I've
like,
only watched up to season 4, so there's some stuff that I don't know. So
yeah,
there's a
like
lot of stuff
they
I
have
don't know.
cover technology and stuff like that, but that, again, that really only comes from like one country specifically. Everywhere
But
else seems to have it varies, but it is similar to kind of either modern kind of technology or um, pseudo steampunkish or Art Deco kind of thing.
but my point is that in order for Cyborg
Cyborg?
in order for Cyborg to fully make use of his powers, he has to have circuit-based technology. And as far as I'm aware, circuit-based technology is rather rare and mostly small scale on RimNet.
Relatively, yeah. Like
So,
it's
like there is no internet for him, for example, or satellites for him to interface with and become basically an AI god, which is basically Cyborg's instant I win button is I hack into the internet, I become an AI god, and now all your technology are belong to me. That's his instant win button. And if he can't do that, then he's somewhat limited to whatever technology he brings with him. And if his technology is altered by the same aesthetic altering field that alters the aesthetics of Superman and Batman, for example, then he's going to be limited to basically being a slightly more high tech version of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, and therefore his power scaling is messed up simply by the fact of there is not enough usable or useful technology in this setting for me to make use of.
right. At the way, okay, so kind of trying to wrap this up so we can move on to other things.
Alright.
I think we can all agree this movie isn't both doesn't look good and it isn't probably going to be good.
Probably not. Oh,
I
so
mean, I feel bad for you because I know you're invested in Ruby. I only am invested in Ruby insofar as shit you've told me, and half of the shit you've told me has been stuff they've Chekhov's gunned. So like, I I we've had this conversation on many a Thursday, but when you talk to me about the things that Ruby doesn't explore, it always makes me think of how awful Once Upon a Time's world building ultimately ended up being, where they would just set off a Chekhov's gun and never address it again. And then this season's Chekhov's gun would for some reason be more important than the previous season's 3 Chekhov's guns because I say so, basically.
my sister loves that show, but she would never shut the fuck up about how much she hated what they did with Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time is one of those shows that is great in concept, and they never exploit the concept. Like after season 1, they just kept constantly fucking over their own creative outlet, and it was frustrating as hell. Also, the universe itself had a moral bias that made the writing absolutely insufferable, to where a nominally villainous character would have to go through like 3 separate redemption arcs
Oh
in
yeah,
order to be considered redeemed, whereas straight like nominally hero characters could straight up murder people, and it never affected their moral alignment according to the universe, apparently.
it was weird because they had that weird charmed morality where like if you're evil, you are evil. If you're good, you are good. Like
Like
it was
you're
so weird.
predisposed to being evil because we say so, even if your actions aren't. And
Yeah.
if you're good, you're predisposed to being good, even as you're murdering people.
All right. Yeah, I guess there is Penny. She's actually like a play on Pinocchio.
Yeah, I remember she had like she like
She was the
destroy
first. How did they go? She was the first synthetic human to produce an aura. So technically,
her
she was a robot that had a soul.
her first. It was funny. Her first introduction, she destroyed a bunch. She like kicked the fuck out of the what are they called? The White Tigers.
White Fang,
White Fang. She beat the
which
shit
is
out of
a
White
which is a
Fang.
weird, which was bringing up an interesting. Well, it was a racism plot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Didn't really do anything with it, honestly. And for the record, I honestly don't plan on doing anything with that, just because I don't think I am a capable enough writer to write about such a thing.
I am happy about that.
I think you undersell yourself, but fine.
You know what? Write about Dalton and his misadventures.
We already sort of have that covered in the Lionhearted universe. My self insert veers a lot closer to me than Brainstormer's self insert veers close to him.
Yeah, like Ruby's supposed to be based off like fairy tales and stuff. Don't really do anything with that anymore, to be honest. Which kind of sucks. Like the character, like a lot of the characters are based off certain fairy tales, but yeah.
You are correct, Dragon Turtle. That if you're referring to Once Upon a Time's morally biased universe, it really does make no sense. But that's part like Once Upon a Time is like a very interesting train wreck in the sense that the first couple of episodes are absolutely amazing and they set up a very amazing, interesting world.
Alright.
And then like sometimes the writers will remember that very interesting world they set up and very interesting things will happen in it. But nine times out of 10, the world will just shit itself for no adequately explained reason.
So here's my thing. Feel free to disagree with me. Once Upon a Time is basically just a soap opera. That like a lot of soap operas are like that. That's why your frustrations are like that.
It did turn into that. Like the first two episodes one in fact, this kind of became a running thing where like the first couple of episodes of any given season Once Upon a Time would be really good, and the finales of the various seasons would be really good, but everything in the middle would be a complete crapshoot. Sometimes you get amazing episodes, and sometimes you would get episodes that would just make you repeatedly like cave in your skull from face palming so hard.
I mean, yeah, like Once Upon a Time is like it's a soap opera, so like that's why you're going to have like a bunch of redeem, especially for villains, is such a popular concept in like soap operas and shit.
Like that wouldn't bother me if the moral system was somehow consistent. But again, you have this problem where like the allegedly good people will do things that 5 minutes ago were enough to condemn the villain to everlasting darkness, but they will not experience any moral, like any darkening of their hearts at all, because in in the universe of, or I guess the multiverse of Once Upon a Time, morality is a metaphysical force, i.e., you literally can physically darken someone's heart if they do enough evil deeds, and vice versa. Good is literally a kind of light.
Okay.
So you'll have good characters do heart darkening things allegedly, and it never has any impact on their character arcs whatsoever. Whereas you'll have evil characters repeatedly going through redemption arcs to lighten their hearts.
That's how come we have like 1,000 different redemption arcs for Rumpelstiltskin, who still is evil.
Yeah, Rumple goes through it a lot, and the Evil Queen is probably the worst example because the thing with Rumpelstiltskin is he is in this weird place where he's better and more rational as a character when he's evil. When he tries to do good, it ultimately ends up making everyone around him, including himself, suffer.
Isn't that is okay? Give me 1 second, brainstormer. I just want to ask this one question. Isn't that because he has like the darkness power or whatever?
Yeah, he's the dark one, and like therefore everything he does is at least infected with dark magic, and no one ever addresses the fact that he's basically a heroin addict who's constantly high on heroin without even needing to get high in the first place. So he will do things trying to be good, and the darkness of his powers will taint the good thing he's trying to do. But rather than ever see him as a tragic character who therefore needs to be have boundaries or need to be um what's the word?
Redeemed.
Slow. No, he needs to be accounted for on occasion, as
Oh,
in when he tries to do good things, rather than being understanding about him trying to do good things and failing. The character will just act like he automatically always wanted to do bad things.
uh,
Uh, uh,
all right. Go
Simon,
ahead, Branson. All right.
we got like
Yeah, but I could go on about the many problems of Once Upon a Time for hours, but we really need to focus on DC shitting the bed again because they shit the bed again.
yeah. It's from epicstream.com. This is ex WB boss has been wanting to get rid of Henry Cavill as Superman since 2018.
Because of what happened with the Shazam thing.
Well, let's get into their reasoning. Their reasoning is even stupider.
It's
Their
written,
reasoning is basically he behaves like an actual fanboy who actually cares about things, and that's forbidden because reasons.
written by Brie Constantino. Said name wrong. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. 2023 marks the 10th anniversary of the DC Universe's inception, but it's also the year that signals the end of the franchise, which initially showed a tremendous amount of promise. Poor creative decisions and alleged personal vendetta from executives ultimately led to its demise, and now the franchise is under the stewardship of DC Studios' James Gunn and Peter Safran.
And
Now,
in theory, I should love that because James Gunn has written some really amazing superhero movies, but he really doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing.
I agree.
But anyway, moving on.
last year, it seemed like the DCU was finally getting back on track after Henry Cavill made his shocking return as Superman in Black Adam. His cameo would later spawn an announcement from the actor that his full-time return to the role, but not long after that, it was confirmed by Gunn himself that Cavill isn't going to play the Man of Steel moving forward. So, can I go a little off script here?
Please.
Of course, please do.
So, I don't mean this in like a truly vile way, but James Gunn, you can go royally fuck yourself for that decision, man.
I agree.
Yeah, that was the single stupid. Okay, not the single stupidest thing that DC has done so far, because we will talk about the Ezra Miller thing here in a minute. But goddamn, was
I agree. To
like
be honest,
that was, but nevertheless, getting Henry Cavill back, getting him all excited, telling him to announce his return, and then taking it away from him was one of the biggest dick moves it's possible for Hollywood to do internally.
Right.
to be honest, it's one of the reasons I wasn't really thrilled about talking about it was because it pisses me off a lot.
Dude, like
Because
I imagine how I feel. I'm a Superman fan, and I honestly think Henry Cavill.
I'm also a Superman fan.
Yeah, dude, it's just what the fuck.
But the truly tragic part for me, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think I'm in the minority when I say I hated Man of Steel. Man of Steel was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
But that being said, I entirely blame Zack Snyder and the writers of the Snyderverse for that. Because here's the thing. I have gotten more Superman vibes from Henry Cavill just being Henry Cavill and watching him like post on social media and shit than I ever got from him on screen. And the reason is because Henry Cavill appears for all intents and purposes for all the world to see like an actual fanboy who actually knows and cares about what these characters are supposed to be like. And so I'm left with the assumption that if he was actually written as Superman, he could play Superman excellently. Because he actually seems to just default to having that kind of personality for whatever it's worth. But he's never actually been given the opportunity to play a Superman as Superman. He has to play the like post Frank Miller Superman rather than anything recognizable as the character. and I'm not even particularly invested in the character, but I know people are, and my standard is let the guy who's qualified to play the character play the character, and Henry Cavill is qualified to play the character. He's just never gotten the opportunity to actually play the character, and
I
it's
still,
annoying. It's
I,
fucked.
s- I stand by I stand by the idea that the reason for that is because like I feel like Hollywood, or at least parts of Hollywood, don't understand Superman.
They don't understand him or the like philosophical underpinning that leads to him or his like idealism. Like
Pretty much, yeah.
they find idealism to be primitive, childish, and stupid. Therefore, no heroic character can exhibit those qualities without being primitive, childish, and stupid in their minds.
I agree. Business went with low hanging fruit. Yes, it's the only explanation. Let's see. What the hell? Hollywood just doesn't understand idealism. I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think they just don't understand idealism.
They think it's overly optimistic, childish, and primitive, basically.
Fuck, I had some. You need a
I,
comic book fan to write the DCU.
you know what? I want like enough of this. I want to know more about Joe Budden. What is this? What is this like video that keeps playing over and over again? What is this?
I no, I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
All right. No, I think it's just circling through other articles, like links to them or something.
Yep.
Okay, because I just keep
Anyway,
seeing this random video, and I was like, "What is that about?"
moving forward.
Cavill's working relationship with WB has been the subject of controversy over the last couple of years, and as it turns out, the company's top executives weren't fans of the 39-year-old actor. That still surprises me that he's 39.
He's 39.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because he looked younger 10 years ago, obviously.
But I mean, the man hasn't aged noticeably.
Not really, no.
Yeah, I would think at least mid-30s at the very least.
Yeah, but the man essentially hasn't aged in 10 years or so. Anyway, getting back to the point.
In fact, one boss has been trying to get rid of Cavill for the last 5 years. According to a new report from Variety, former Warner Brothers film chief Toby Emmerich, who stepped down from his director position last year, has been orchestrating a plan to get rid of Cavill as Superman since 2018.
Why?
The reason for his apparent dislike of the British star wasn't disclosed, but ultimately he succeeded as Cavill has officially been let go from the franchise.
I want to know why, because everyone who knows Henry Cavill personally appears to have a positive opinion of Henry Cavill.
I remember reading about the Shazam thing. Basically, he was supposed to make a cameo in Shazam, and like I think his agent said that this will count as a credited appearance. And then there was like this, and then the I think one of the WB executives got
Oh
really
yeah,
angry.
I remember that. They wanted him in the post-credit scene with
Yeah.
with Freddy and Shazam, and
They said like he won't play. Basically, they said he won't play ball, so fuck him. He'll never be Superman again. It to me, it's just the most bizarre fucking shit.
well, it's still a more adult rationale than the most recent one, which is he's too much of a fanboy and actually cares about the IP, and we can't have people who actually care about the IP.
You know what? You know what? I'm so glad that discourse died overnight. Like, cause like it was up for all of like maybe a week or two, and then it just kind of just fizzled out. I'm so glad like Henry Cavill's sheer popularity just overwhelmed Journo's ability to just
Well,
steer him.
it's funny because they basically did a hit piece on him where they went, he actually cares about things. How dare he? And everyone and all the actual like fans went, you are claiming this thing is a sin when in actuality it is a virtue. Fuck off.
All right. Yeah, I really just feel bad for Henry Cavill. Like again, the guy wanted to play Superman, but never got the chance to actually play the character, like the real character.
Yeah, it's sad because physically physically he is the most perfect Superman I think we've ever gotten. And yes, I'm including Christopher Reeve in that because Christopher Reeve was good for the 70s, but does not is not as physically um it doesn't physically actualize Superman nearly as much as Henry Cavill does.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like he looks as much like the character as is possible for a human being to look without CGI augmentation.
All right, last two sentences. WB and DC Studios definitely did Henry dirty and say that what you will about his DCU tenure, he didn't deserve the treatment the company gave him.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
No one does.
Well,
Although, I guess silver lining is that he is looking to get Warhammer 40K on
off
the
the
screen.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill for God Emperor.
I don't know.
Though honestly, I really, really, really would like to see him play Horus Lupercal.
I'd have to do more research. I'll be honest, I've never been the biggest fan of Warhammer.
Really?
Grim Darkness.
And dark. Did you say in darkness?
Grim Darkness. It's the
Yeah,
Oh,
he does.
Grimdark. Yeah.
He doesn't like the Grimdark,
You know,
which is fair.
you know what surprises me? Like you look at your avatar and kind of the aesthetic you have going with the channel, and you just get the complete opposite, or at least I get the complete opposite.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind seeing Henry Cavill as Horus from Horus Heresy.
I mean, okay, so my thing is I find it interesting, like the lore. It's just like,
It's just too grim dark.
yeah,
The world constantly being
I think
dominated by warlike fucktards and or chaos gods.
like so far the actual lore. Like my favorite thing that's come out of it was the what if the Emperor had a text to speech device in terms of fan works.
Yeah.
The fan works are actually really good, to be honest. Which kind of sucks what happened with the whole game workshop guideline bullshit.
Oh yeah. When they
GW constantly shoots themselves in the goddamn foot. It's a thing.
I will say one of my favorite chapters that I've gone into like researching for Warhammer lore is the Lamenters, which I'm aware. And for those who don't know, who Lamenters are, if I remember correctly, they are a successor chapter of the Blood Angels, which is from the gene seed of Sanguinius.
Yeah. My only problem with the idea of Henry Cavill doing 40K is I really would rather them do standard Warhammer first or Warhammer Fantasy first and then do 40K. Like I understand the temptation to jump right to 40K, I do, but I really like the just straight up Warhammer setting. And I find it annoying that people just automatically just skip right to 40K.
We don't have enough decent fantasy coming out lately. So yeah, I would love that. I would love just
And
Warhammer.
it's not like Warhammer isn't also the standard grimdark that you expect from Warhammer because
It's
the
very
on- the on-
colorful.
the only difference between Warhammer and Warhammer 40K is Warhammer 40K is a slightly more like sci-fi setting, whereas Warhammer
Warhammer.
proper is literally set in like the Dark Ages, like during witch trials and shit.
It's also really, really colorful. Like, oh my, it's like really vibrant.
It's a very interestingly aesthetic universe with a very like thematically Warhammer is very dark. Aesthetically, it's very colorful.
Right. So I do want to read the last line of that article. Just meanwhile, surrounding James Gunn's Superman project are still being kept under wraps. Okay.
Everything we've learned so far sounds very dumb to me, but
right. I do also want to mention like someone who's still doing kind of fan works for Warhammer on YouTube is a guy named Warrior Tier who does narrations of stories or writes stories and reads them. He's got like a really epic voice. And I recently watched one called Lamentor story, and one that's gotten more popular is an Ogren story. If anyone knows what an Ogren is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, just type in Warrior Tier on YouTube and you'll find it. It's I recommend it. It's really cool. So that's weird, but I don't know if I want to cover the next article just because like I think it's not really. You know what? Screw it.
Let's cover it. Let's cover it. We have to talk about the elephant in the room.
Dalton, you're not that fat. Jesus.
Okay, thank you. I will have you know I'm very skinny. Almost unhealthfully so, frankly, but that's neither here nor there.
This is from the female strategy.
Okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm sorry. Like I refuse to be a part. Like this article pisses me off. Literally.
Yeah, I'm honest. I'm with you there. I don't want to cover this.
I don't want to cover this, Dalton. I really don't.
We have to cover it. We have to.
Why?
Someone has to.
I don't. No, we don't. I don't. I'm actively saying I don't want to cover this. Like I know you want to, and I respect you, but I don't want to cover this. This legitimately makes me angry. Like, and I don't want to cover something that, like, literally makes me angry. I really don't. Like,
how about we flip for it?
All right.
Okay.
That's fair.
Got my silver dollar here. I think it's a silver dollar. So heads, we'll do it. Tails, we won't.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna try that again because it landed on heads first. Okay. Okay, tails. Thank God.
Fuck yes, I do not want to cover this. Again,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dalton. I don't want to cover something that like literally makes me angry.
Maybe at some point, Corrupt isn't here. We'll cover it.
I feel like it needs. I feel like it needs to be covered because it's that stupid.
Like, I get what you're saying.
That's exactly that. Like when it makes us this angry is exactly when we need to cover things like this.
I get what you're saying, but like
in order to rip it a new asshole, essentially.
Well, I do get what you're saying. It's just I'm in a fairly chill mood. I just don't want to be angry right now. I guess that's my only real reason.
Mm-hmm.
Not like angry. You know?
Yeah. Anyway, next.
Well, I guess we can talk about like James Gunn being appointed as head of DCU. Just our overall thoughts about it. You know.
I mean, I have a lot of faith in James Gunn because he has made some of the best contributions to the superhero genre as yet. But at the same time, every decision has been stupid. Yeah. Every single one since he took over as head of DC has been not just a wrong choice, but the mirror opposite of the correct choice is the problem.
I agree.
I'm not going to play devil's advocate here, but I will attempt to give more of a balanced, more of a balanced look on this, because I honestly say I'm more of a neutral in this position. Don't get me wrong, I agree there are some stupid decisions and he's not making a good first impression.
Like keeping Ezra Miller but getting rid of Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill, because that's a decision that's not going to bite you in the ass in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Look at the destruction of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like and that's the other problem is if he was still at the top of his game and was still where he was when he made Suicide Squad 2 or Guardians 2, I think he would have been fine. But the fact that he is now, and he has been for the past 2 years, and he has been I'd have a lot more faith in him. But
Uh,
he seems to be removing the parts of Guardians that I liked as well, and I don't like if that's where we're starting from with DC, then honestly, it's going to come crashing and burning again, and then they're going to have to reboot it a third time,
so
and it's just like it's probably going to be like the 100th anniversary of Action Comics #1 before we actually get a decent Superman.
So-
It's probably going to be 2038 before we actually get a decent DC universe cinematically.
All right, so I don't really see how you could take any sort of position regarding the Ezra Miller thing for a few simple reasons. My feelings for him aside, he's kind of a liability. Look at how much negative press he generated, and I mean he's protected by his status as like a non-binary person, but like he's threatened people with guns, he's gotten into numerous, he's assaulted
He has
women,
repeatedly choked a bitch.
he's repeatedly assaulted women, he's assaulted like random people in bars. Like there's no way you could possibly say, oh yeah, we should keep someone who is serious, who is like demonstrably dangerous to themselves and others.
Especially when you consider what other people have done to warrant this kind of to get blacklisted that has not even come close to as bad as what Ezra Miller has done. Like Johnny Depp was just accused of doing bad things to Amber Heard. Accused, mind you, not confirmed, not we have evidence, not anything. He was accused of doing bad things to Amber Heard, and he lost basically every major role in his entire career, or at least the ones that he was still active in.
Whereas like Ezra Miller had to try to get
Well,
fired.
keep in mind, Henry Cavill's biggest sin, apparently, even though we didn't cover it because I got outvoted, was he acted like an actual fan who actually has sincere hope for IPs. And this apparently was Hollywood's cardinal sin to such a degree that everyone from Jezebel to FDS to fucking the Mary Sue to everyone else has basically turned on someone who literally looks and acts, for all intents and purposes, like a real life version of Superman. And he is now persona non grata because he did nothing worse than actually be a fanboy.
I mean,
But Ezra Miller, the beta male second coming of the bastard child of Aleister Crowley and Rasputin, can choke a bitch on camera, mind you. We have the actual physical evidence. He can threaten to shoot someone over a dispute over the game Yahtzee. He can actually engage in what could meaningfully be called child grooming, and I'm not using that term in the sensationalist everything I don't like is child grooming sense. I'm literally using it in the sense that it's supposed to actually mean a thing. He actually inculcated someone into some kind of quasi-spiritual cult who was like a minor at the time. And even so, even having like demonstrably done all of these things and having many people come out and say he did these things and having evidence for him having done those things, he is still considered for. And also keep in mind that Johnny Depp was one of the greatest actors in the Hall of Hollywood, considered at one point. Henry Cavill, for as much as people didn't like Man of Steel, was still considered to be an amazing actor, and so on and so forth. Other actors who have done much more direct contributions to the art form of cinema have gotten blacklisted over less than Ezra Miller has, and he has not even demonstrated the fact that he's a very good actor. So even I could see it if he were actually that good of an actor, if he were actually that compelling of an actor, I could see letting him off on some of this stuff. But he's not even that good of an actor. He's done worse things than other people have gotten blacklisted for, including people like Henry Cavill getting blacklisted for no other reason than singing against the social justice hive mind by being an actual fanboy. But apparently none of this was as bad as shit that Ezra Miller has done, and yet he's untouchable because reasons.
I mean, my opinion. For one, like I said, I think the most of the Henry Cavill shit, luckily for him, kind of died in the crib because his reputation is just so positive
It
that they
died publicly. But he is still persona non grata among Hollywood, though, is the problem.
like WB. I'll agree when it comes to the WB. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't know about other places outside of the WB because or Warner Brothers. I hate saying the WB or Warner Brothers, but because he has such a positive reputation and they weren't able to smear him successfully. Now Ezra Miller, I think it's pretty obvious why Ezra Miller is protected is protected, but like he's basically done a lot of shit that could basically endanger other people, and he's still there.
Yeah.
He's not even a good he's a
He
passable
doesn't even
actor.
have the talent to justify putting up with this kind of crazy shit.
Exactly. He's a passable actor at best.
I think that might even be a little bit too nice. I've never seen him play in a role that I've actually liked him in. Never. But he can do no wrong, despite that Henry Cavill, his main sin was he actually cared. And
So-
apparently that was an unpardonable sin, whereas choking a bitch was totally pardonable because
Yeah,
reasons.
I agree with Ahsoka. That I've said this before, Ahsoka, and I agree with you. He's protected mainly because he's non-binary, and like as like, and that gives him a lot of protection from the more progressive parts of the media because he's just non-binary. That's it.
Well,
If
and that goes back to what I've always said, which is the people who are authoritarian moralists for any particular ideology are that way largely because they have no innate sense of morality. They have no innate sense of empathy. Because
uh,
because people with an innate sense of empathy or an innate sense of intuitive morality, like most people have, can easily and elementarily explain to you why Ezra Miller is worse than Henry Cavill by several dozen orders of magnitude. But these people, their only deference to morality comes in the form of the strict code of social justice. Therefore, it actually does, in their heads, I'm sure, feel like an unpardonable sin that Henry Cavill does hold to the intrinsic value of IPs and want to please both himself and fans. Whereas Ezra Miller actually does seem less immoral to them because his quirks, quote unquote, his unarguably immoral shit are just the quirks of a saint, basically, in
it's
their
fun.
heads.
It's funny because Dalton and I are part of the Rainbow Mafia, but
Yeah, no, I'm gayer than a $3 bill. We
exactly.
literally just established before the stream that I have all the gay stereotypes. I love show tunes, I love musical theater, I love opera and ballet and all the fancy for shit that gay stereotypes are supposed to like.
Yeah, but
Okay, I'm done.
all right, but we would be seen but we would be treated so much more harshly because we kind of go against the sort of
The ideology.
the social justice shit. Yeah.
So,
We don't believe in the sacred social justice.
so
Therefore,
can
we are unpersons.
can I throw my 2 cents in here?
Of course you can.
Well, okay, so kind of looking at James Gunn's decisions on a whole, on a somewhat executive, I could somewhat understand it. Scorched Earth, granted, still, I agree. Keeping Ezra Miller is a terrible thing and really incredibly stupid. Not this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If he were going full scorched earth, as in no one who previously had a role for DC keeps their jobs, that would almost be understandable because that's I'm starting an entirely new franchise, an entirely new universe, so I need to start from scratch. But the fact that keeping Gal Gadot was not on the menu, even though Wonder Woman is arguably the most successful franchise in the entire DC universe, both financially and in terms of reputation. Not keeping Jason Momoa, even though Aquaman is one of the few DCEU movies to crack $1 billion at the box office. Not keeping Henry Cavill, despite the massive fan engagement with him, and the fact that he's basically perfectly casted for the role. But keeping Ezra Miller, who again is the bastard love child of, Rasputin and Aleister Crowley, if all the testosterone was removed. But yeah, if they were actually going fully scorched earth, that would be one thing. But they're not going fully scorched earth because they want to keep Flashpoint and Ezra Miller for some reason.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I am trying to be the optimist that I am. I am still looking forward to what he has plans for, but I am somewhat worried.
The sad thing is, no matter how good James Gunn's rendition of the DC universe is, I think it's already DOA because the fan base has already been treated so shamefully that even if he makes the best Superman movie since the Donner version or a better version of the Donner version, I think you'll still have people boycotting it because they're still going to be mad. They're still going to be mad about why, if you could have made this good Superman movie, why couldn't you have made it with Henry Cavill? Is going to be the battle cry. And the same is true of people who like Black Adam, or people who like the Shazam movies, or people who like Aquaman, or people who like basically anything that DC has done up until this point that wasn't directly related to the Snyderverse. Which there's actually a lot of really good stuff that DC has done since moving away from the Snyderverse that functioned perfectly as an attempt at course correction. All they needed to do was keep moving in that direction and keep the things of the DCEU that did work while slowly but surely retconning out of existence the Snyderverse stuff, and everyone would have been happy. But instead, it's, I'm going to go scorched earth. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm keeping Ezra Miller and I'm keeping Amber Heard. But I'm getting rid of Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, and Jason Momoa because why would I keep those guys?
Right. Yeah.
It's so weird. From what I remember, from what I understand, it's that some WB execs are like open to keeping him. Is it confirmed that he's staying? I just heard that some are keeping him, are open to keeping him. That's what I heard. I don't know if he's actually.
I don't think it's confirmed that he's staying, but at the very least, they want him to continue playing the role of the Flash even after Flashpoint. Which, by the way, that is also like the exact opposite choice they should make. What they should do is they should make Flashpoint the very last Snyderverse adjacent DC movie, and then they should have the multiverse work in such a way that basically Ezra Miller can be recasted as the Flash, and that everyone else can therefore be recasted as every other role. That would be the proper way to do this if you were actually interested in doing it. But for some reason, not only do they want to keep him for Flashpoint, which does make sense because they need some way of transitioning from old universe to new universe. That's fine. But they want to keep him still in the role after Flashpoint, which is the single stupidest decision they possibly could make, especially because we've already established they're getting rid of Cavill, they're getting rid of Gadot, and they're getting rid of Momoa, which are the three that people actually like. Well, that and Ben Affleck, but Ben Affleck was already kind of on the outs because they're moving in the Patterson direction, which is fine.
I actually gave some thought on how I would have done the DCU if I was given the chance. Although I'm sure it'd be controversial.
There's literally no way to do this that isn't going to be controversial to somebody at some point at this point, honestly. That's why I'm, as much as I have faith in James Gunn's ability to pull off a DC universe, it's probably going to crash and burn anyway because the fan base just isn't going to be there. with
You know,
with it.
Marvel has. It also doesn't help that Marvel has so much of the market share when it comes to superhero movies at the moment, and I just have no. So here's my thing. At the moment, my mind could be changed as easily as tomorrow. I
Hmm.
feel like they don't have the right idea for how to do any of these other characters besides Batman. Like
Yeah,
that's the only character I feel like and I believe the director for Batman stated, or was it the director who said that like his Batman doesn't have a Superman? So like it seems like whoever does direct a decent Batman movie as of late wants it to be like gritty,
yeah. They keep
real.
sectioning off the universes rather than letting shit coexist in the same universe.
Exactly.
like,
They want it to be like super gritty and realistic, and they don't want any, and
So
they
no
don't.
superpowers basically
Yeah,
at all.
exactly. Yeah, and they
um,
don't want it to share a universe with any other superheroes. They just want it to segregate it to like their own singular vision.
Which is so stupid at this point.
um,
Like, and I'm honestly worried about the entire superhero genre's future because Marvel is on pretty shaky ground themselves, and they're the only ones that have made a successful go of the superhero genre so far, really. And DC once again, rather than actually getting their shit together and being an actual counterweight to Marvel, are looking to make the exact opposite choices they should make again, which is going to necessitate rebooting the universe again, which is going to take at least another 5 or 10 years, which means that literally at this point for DC, the best option I can give them, the best advice I can give them, is do absolutely nothing after Flashpoint comes out. Do literally nothing after Flashpoint comes out. And then in 2038, which will be the century mark or the 100-year anniversary of Action Comics #1, reboot the DC universe set in the goddamn golden age of comics and milk the connection between the comics and the movie universe as much as you feasibly can and set it during the golden age. That is probably DC's best bet for how to properly reboot their universe in a way that's not going to piss literally everyone off and is actually going to get some goodwill going so that they can actually compete with Marvel. That would be how I would advise them to go.
but yeah, before we move on, I don't think we have anything else to say. I have given this thought about how I would have done it if I was in James Gunn's shoes. Um, so one, keep franchises that have worked, obviously, like the Batman and Joker.
And Black Adam and
Yeah,
Shazam.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and still keep the actors that are good and haven't really caused problems for publicity's sake, you know. But personally, I would kind of let those guys breathe a bit. What I mean by that is like kind of put them to the side for the moment because we get those guys a lot, right? Specifically Batman, right?
Yeah, we're on what the fourth iteration of Batman in as many decades.
I think so. I haven't kept track, but
If we're tracking like the cinematic versions, you had the Keaton version, you had the Kilmer version, you had the um you had the Clooney version,
no, it
you
was
had the you
Keaton.
had the Bale version, and then the Affleck version, and now the Pattinson version. So yeah, we're up to at least 4 iterations. And we're up to 3 on the Superman counter.
Six Batman.
Well, I didn't count all of the actor changes because some of them are allegedly supposed to take place in the same universe. Like the Kilmer version is supposed to literally just be the Keaton version.
I'm still counting it.
I'm willing to be charitable and say about 4, but point being, we had Reeves, we had Ralph, and we also had Cavill, and so we're going into Superman iteration 4 as well now.
But
Now, whether they're actually going to establish a version of Superman that anyone's going to like is going to be another issue entirely, because we're only up to, I think, 2 on that counter, but that's neither here nor there.
But yeah. So like I said, give those guys a little time to simmer, and maybe give a little more time for the directors to really hammer stuff out. Like, don't do what Marvel did, which was factory produce this stuff after a time. Like, I'm not saying they did that originally, because they clearly didn't. But it became more prevalent, obviously, as like the 2010s rolled around.
Mm-hmm.
And get more like more minor characters that haven't really gotten in the spotlight or not done right, and give them more of a spotlight.
Again, I'm just gonna say it. Cast Matt Smith as a young Kent Nelson and give me a Dr. Fate trilogy.
Right. But I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of already creating my own DC universe with the CW thing I'm working on. So,
like, how much money would we have to pay Wes Anderson to make him make a Dr. Fate trilogy set in the same universe as Black Adam with Matt Smith as a young Kent Nelson? And it's actually like a 20s to 40 set period piece. I want that. And
anyway, so kind of to close things out on a more happy point. This is a fan thing I found. Again, still DC. A fan made trailer for a concept of Batman Silent Night. This was made about 3 weeks ago. So like I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but I'm a big fan of like fan trailers and things like that, like fan made stuff.
mm-hmm.
Just because like there's usually a lot of effort put into it.
Did you ever watch the 3 Dr. Fate fan films I sent you? The Crawl and Chaos, Question of Fate, and
dude, I saw those like a while ago.
oh, okay, good.
What is Crawl and Chaos about? Is it about
it's a Dr. Fate fan film. It was made in, like, I want to say 2009. It's a fairly old one, but it's a really good rendition. And then they made a sequel, which is a crossover between Dr. Fate and The Question. It's called The Question of Fate, because of course it is. And then, like, 5 or 6 years after that, they made a follow-up 3rd chapter of the trilogy, which I thought the 3rd chapter was not very good, because they tried to mix together the they tried to have it both ways and have it be both the original Dr. Fate that they had established previously and also the Possession retcon, because at that point the Young Justice version was very popular, and it really didn't work. But the first 2 chapters of that fan film trilogy are actually really good, even though they were made on a shoestring budget back in 2009.
Right.
So they're very cheap looking, but they're still very good renditions of the character.
Right. I will say this: my uncle has gotten fooled by a few fan films just because of how well made they are. And I've just had to look at him and tell him, "Oh, buddy."
Disappointed normie face. Oh.
Anyway, yeah, this Batman Silent Night.
Bat Nana.
Shut the fuck up.
No, Fat Nana. Fat Nana is what we're going with. Fat Nana.
The banana. I am the terror.
Oh, actually, I don't know. Okay, so this is weird because yesterday I just had this thing pop in my head, and I was like on YouTube, and okay, so I'm sure everyone here, Chad included, they grew up watching Cartoon Network, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys remember ever like those short films of thumb people?
Yes, I remember. I think I think I know where you're going. You're gonna reference Bat Thumb.
Yeah. For the record,
Yeah,
there's a 4K remaster on YouTube.
I remember the Thumb parody movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I just typed it in there, and yeah, like, I don't know why that just like popped in my head like yesterday. That's weird.
Yeah, I remember Bat Thumb. Bat Thumb was funny.
Have you ever seen that?
Bat Thumb?
Yeah.
Not really. I don't think I've ever seen Bat Thumb.
It's kind of like a parody of the first Tim Burton version of Batman '89.
I can find it to you and send it to you if you want. It's like a 30-minute.
Alright, that would be
Actually,
kind of cool,
it's
actually.
weird because like it's actually really well made, like set design and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also a very obvious parody because again, some people. Anyway,
Yeah.
Bat Nana.
That
I am the banana that pills at midnight. I am the banana.
Bat Nana.
Special delivery. Keep it off in the cell.
I will say this. This is actually like one of those fan editors that's like been doing this for years, and his stuff has gotten like a lot better over time.
Yeah.
I can already tell like within the first 20 seconds, it really captures the feeling of like the Batman trailers.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Amazing what effort can do. It's a shame that no one actually gives these people the money that they need to do it properly.
Full disclosure, it's guys like these and Ultra Sergeant. Dude's done like some really like great like 25-minute edits of like fan stuff. Recommend that guy, like watching that guy too. This what got me into like wanting to be an editor and like doing that stuff. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to do my own fan edits. Never got the chance though, so yeah.
Mhm. Bat Nana.
Yeah. Plus, also
Yeah.
setting Batman at Christmas time is always cool to me.
Silent Night.
I mean, wasn't Batman Returns set during Christmas, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Anyway, Bat Nana.
Yeah. One sec. There we go.
Oh, excellent. I'm a bit of an artist.
Yeah. If it didn't say fan made, I'm sure someone would think that was legit.
Unfortunately, not because this looks better than most of what DC has put out in recent years.
Oh my god. This looks amazing. I love Die Hard.
Shut the fuck up, Kura.
I mean, Die Hard, but with Batman is not a bad pitch for a thing, to be fair.
I just want to point out this scene because there is a Christmas tree edited into a scene from the first Batman film
Yeah.
in the Batcave and stuff and like other things. Like
Mhm.
just you can honestly like I think if you do pause it or like actually look at it, you can tell that it is a PNG put on there.
Yeah.
But it's still really good. Like I'm always impressed by
Yeah,
like
if only we could combine the effort and the money instead of the effort being in one place and the money being in another place.
Bat hard. Yes.
that. Why does that sound like a porn parody?
Because it probably would be. If someone actually made this, I'm pretty sure the porn version would be called Bat Hard. And then the sequel would be called Bat Hard 2 Bat Harder.
What is wrong with you?
I know how the internet works, man. I have looked into the internet abyss, and it has gazed back into me. I'm basically Freakazoid from the old cartoon.
When you gaze into when you gaze into your Ethernet cable, it gazes back into you.
I feel like you guys go to different places than I do on the internet.
Oh, you sweet summer child! Never ever go to 4chan.
Where do you go, brainstormer? What's the typical brainstormer like internet like history look like anyway?
Okay. Well, YouTube mainly to listen to like music while I like write stuff.
Yeah.
DeviantArt, like just look up like some of my favorite artists on there.
All right.
Concept art, comic art, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Reddit, specifically like fan pitches, rewrites of things, red versus blue stuff, like fan theories and stuff like that. So
Yes, Dragon Turtle. Bat Hard 3. Bat with a vengeance.
All right. What did you say? Brainstormer? I couldn't hear the rest of that.
Red versus blue stuff. That's pretty much it. That's what I really do on the internet most of the time.
Again, you sweet summer child, stay off of 4chan. 4chan will ruin you. It will make you regret being alive.
Or searching for articles for, although I haven't done that lately, just because like.
No, normally staring into that particular abyss is my job. Anyway, shall we bat Nana?
Yeah.
What the hell? Where the hell is he?
I see you got my message. I'd like to have a conversation.
I want to know who he is.
I know you don't have a lot of time.
You tell me.
Yeah, I really dig this. Just, I wish this was real.
Yeah, again, in a sane world, these sorts of people would be recruited by Hollywood. Well, we don't live in a sane world. We live in a world where the effort is on one side of the screen and the money is on the other side of the screen, and never the two shall meet.
We also live in a world ruled by at the moment anyway, like progressive media and what progressive media thinks would be best,
Yes, which usually involves art is nothing but a means to an end and never can ever be an end in itself, no matter how much everyone else would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Turtle. I agree with Dragon Turtle. At what point do we assume someone who hates DC and the fans were put in charge?
I think we assumed that the day that Henry Cavill got fired, but Ezra Miller didn't. I think that's the correct assumption at that point. Like, no, the DC executives not only don't understand comics, but they actively resent them. That's how that works, I think.
I have a vision. If you don't support my vision, I hate you.
They I swear they literally do anti-market research, where it's literally like they ask the fans what they want, and then instead of giving the fans what they want, they give the fans the exact opposite of everything they asked for, and then they wonder why it crashed and burned horribly and doesn't make any money.
I'm back.
Instead we get Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ugh.
I'm back.
And Birds of Prey, and
Oh.
Ezra Miller remaining as the Flash, while Henry Cavill gets kicked to the curb for liking the fans too much.
Well, I'm back with Burger King.
Oh, do you have enough for the class?
No, fuck
Did you get chicken fries?
What an asshole.
No, I just got regular. Wait, they're doing chicken fries?
Oh my god, have you not had Burger King's chicken fries?
I didn't even know they had chicken fries.
They've had chicken fries ever since I was a little kid, so yes, they have chicken fries. And they are probably my favorite thing on Burger King's entire menu. But for some reason they will not make a meal-sized portion of them. They always come in these little snack packs, and you have to get like 6 or 7 of them before it actually constitutes an actual meal.
Okay, so Corona just said something interesting. On a cold, lonely Christmas Eve, Bruce Wayne stops at Nakatomi Towers, a tale of what an extra pair of boots can do. But Hans has new partners in the form of the Quarter Owls, Talons and Batarangs, a die-hard Christmas carol. That actually sounds pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I would read that and or watch
Alright.
that.
Alright, hold on for a second. I'll be right back. You guys go ahead.
Hans Gruber basically as the Riddler would be cool. Anyway,
Well, Corrupt just disappeared for a second. So, yeah, I don't know why, but I've always liked Batman being put in a Christmas kind, like Gotham in winter, like Christmas lights and stuff like that.
yeah, the like gothic Christmas aesthetic is it lends itself very nicely.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting.
Contrast
Yeah, thank you.
between the dark underbelly of Gotham and the prettiness and unwholesomeness that is Christmas time.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
What's weird is they never, to my knowledge, anyone here, feel free to correct me. To my knowledge, they don't really put Batman in that type of setting, though.
They don't really. I mean, Tim Burton did. I think both movies were set during winter, and I know for a fact at least Batman Returns was set during Christmas.
Yeah, like I know Batman Returns. That was
Yeah,
like very
but
prevalent.
as far as the comics goes, they've only even done Halloween the one time, which of course was Long Halloween. Which honestly, if ever there was a holiday that lent itself to Batman, it would be Halloween.
Right? No, I agree. I'm just saying, like it's such a visually, it's so interesting.
The like graveyard with like the snow covering it and the like Christmas lights in the background and everything. Yeah, it works.
Actually, to quote, I don't like this guy per se, Patrick H. Willems.
Yeah, I don't really like him either, but he does good work occasionally.
Yeah, and like he did a video essay on Lethal Weapon and how he liked it, or Shane Black and Christmas action movies, I think it was called.
He also did a really good video essay on the Scarlet Witch and explained how Wanda has always teetered between being a hero and a villain in the MCU, and therefore how Multiverse of Madness actually made a bunch of sense.
Right. But what was it? Christmas always, it's about togetherness, about family and stuff. And in terms of movies, like the movie tropes of Christmas. That's
Mhm.
to define that.
Mhm.
Um, and Christmas also amplifies the lonely people feeling lonelier, and
Yeah.
that's what I kind of find fascinating with Batman, because
And it's also putting the like wholesome, colorful aesthetic over top of the dark, seedy underbelly of a place like Gotham.
actually, okay, so that one Batman comic that basically told the story of the Christmas Carol, Batman Noel. That
Mhm.
okay, so that one was pretty prevalent. It's not one that's used frequently, is what I mean. Like the setting of Christmas time or December.
Yeah, you would think that the two settings that would make the most sense for Batman would be Christmas and Halloween, but not. But apart from like one story each, they never really use it. Like Batman has the Long Halloween and Batman has Batman Noel, but apart from those two, they'd never really made proper use of Halloween or Christmas. They did in the animated series though. I remember distinctly there were episodes that focused on how Batman felt during Christmas and how Alfred would always try to encourage him because Alfred is best butler ever.
Well, best father, really.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the whole Alfred is basically Bruce's father figure thing is fairly well known to everyone at this
yeah.
point.
Um, Jingle bells, Batman smells. Obviously that came. I believe that came at least from the animated series.
No, it existed before the animated series, but the animated series used it.
Yeah, I guess you could say popularized it.
No, it was already popular. The joke was we're taking this thing that everyone knows and actually making use of it in the show. That was
Okay,
the joke.
I did not know that, but okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we bat Nana? I'm not sure if Corrupt is coming back in any short order.
Uh, I also want to mention color grading, always fun.
Uh-huh. Again, effort versus resources. In a sane world, effort would coincide with resources, but unfortunately, we do not live in a sane world. We live in clown world, literally.
Banana.
Bat Nana.
You tell me.
I'm always so ahead of the curve.
In the spirit of the holidays, I want you to know something. I'm in control now. In here and up there. But the mask and the skills.
Yeah, this is really cool. Like, I don't think I've ever really seen a thriller Christmas movie.
I mean, there have been a couple, but they're not always very good.
Well, okay, to my knowledge, okay, that's what I meant.
Mm.
Not saying there aren't any. I'm just saying, like, I've in my short experience on this world, I haven't seen a Christmas.
I keep forgetting there's like a 4-year gap between us. You're very young.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
I mean, I didn't intend it as one in this particular case, but you're free to take it as one.
Okay, but yeah, like I dig this. Like again, I wish this was like an actual trailer for an actual movie.
Again, the difference between effort with no money and money with no effort. In a sane world, there would be money and effort, but unfortunately, we don't live in a sane world.
Yeah.
Bat Nana.
But I do want to say this. I honestly could see the next movie being set at Christmas, since the first one was set kind of at Halloween.
I mean, I'd rather they actually set one actually during Halloween rather than tiptoeing around it. Like, actually make it central to the goddamn movie. Just because, especially with Matt Reeves' aesthetic, Batman like backlit by jack-o'-lanterns would be amazing.
Fair
And
enough.
if Matt Reeves was willing to engage with actual supernatural shit, I wouldn't mind seeing like Jason Blood and Etrigan show up, or even like remember Spellbinder? He was one of the ones that was used in the Batman series at one point. He was the monk that could like hypnotize people with
Yeah,
his
I
third eye.
remember. I remember. I mean, granted, the one I am more familiar with is obviously the Batman Beyond version that was actually voiced by, I believe, Robert Englund.
Yeah, I never was that familiar with that version of Spellbinder. I remember that this is weird because normally I'm the one referencing animated series continuity and you're the one referencing the Batman, but I mostly remember the version from the Batman. But yeah, Spellbinder would be a good Spellbinder would be a good villain for a Halloween centric Batman movie.
I grew up in a weird
Or Man Bat. Man Bat would also be cool.
there actually is a trailer, a fan trailer I'd seen of the Batman called Fear the Batman, where they had Batman Bat in it.
Didn't the Batman also have a movie special where Batman fought Dracula?
Yep.
That would also be a good Halloween centric Batman story. Anyway, Batman.
All right, one sec. Yeah, okay. That banana.
Batman.
You truly are the best gift. And with such a gift, don't let that go to waste.
Again, man, this is really cool.
Mm-hmm. In a sane world, this one would have spent all the money, but unfortunately, we don't live in one. Batman.
Sorry, had to add something.
Ah, okay.
Yes, and it was awesome. And one of the scarier things I've seen in those years. We're referencing to what are you talking about, Brian Trump?
I think he's talking about the Batman versus Dracula one.
Oh. Well, what strikes me as interesting about that is that it's only like what, about 50 minutes long?
I want to say it was a very short direct-to-video type movie.
Yeah.
I
God,
think it might have actually qualified as a special.
You guys remember? Yeah, okay, he was. Sorry, I was making sure because we were talking about a lot of things. So, y'all remember the blood bank scene?
Yes, I do.
Vampire Joker. That I will say that scene has stuck with me for years since I first saw it.
Yeah.
Because it got a bumped up rating, right? So they could do a little more.
Mm-hmm. Because the normal rating was TVY7. I think the movie was rated like TV13, maybe. I think.
Huh. I will say, Joker, Batman, not Joker, Vampire Joker was a lot more terrifying than the regular Joker.
Sorry, I'm back.
Hey.
I'm back.
We were talking about Batman versus Dracula.
Batman versus Dracula.
The Batman versus Dracula, the animated show, animated
The animated. I love that Batman show. Oh my god,
Yeah,
I love that one. The Batman.
the special episode of the Batman that got turned
I
into a standalone movie.
I loved the Batman. Oh my god, that was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
That was a good cartoon.
I still say that their version of the Riddler backstory is the gold standard for Riddler backstories.
It made him really sympathetic, and you kind of understood why he was the way that
Yeah, like it single-handedly made the Riddler one of my favorite Batman villains.
He was emo as fuck, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he was relatable as fuck.
No, I
is
mean,
the problem.
I meant the design. I meant the design.
Oh, you
Well,
know,
yeah,
like the Marilyn Manson
but
design?
every villain in the Batman had an over-the-top design.
Bane got kind of screwed over, though.
Who got kind of screwed over?
Bane.
You didn't like Bane's design?
Well, I think it's just like they didn't really use the character much.
Oh, because they didn't use him much. There were a few villains that I really liked that they just didn't use that much. I liked the fact that the Penguin had like 2 geisha girls, but like they got rid of that. Controversial opinion. I really disliked that like they started like removing elements of the show to placate people who were like, "Oh my god, it's not enough like the comics." Like it's not an exact interpretation of the comics.
Yeah,
There are going to be-
it's kind of the twisted. It's its own twisted universe.
there are going to be some differences from the comics. Not everything needs to match up perfectly with the comics.
Although to be fair, I think a lot of things did. And I mean, hell, the animated series added Harley Quinn, and we still haven't gotten rid of her because she was so popular.
Seriously. Also, I like the original. Also, I liked what they did with Clayface in the Batman.
I don't remember what they did with Clayface in the Batman.
So basically,
well, there are 2 distinct different ones.
there's the person they called the original Clayface, which was
Ethan Bennett.
Bruce's friend Ethan Bennett.
Detective Ethan Bennett.
Yeah, Detective Ethan Bennett. And then later there was the comic book Clayface who referred to Ethan Bennett as like Clayface. Which was interesting because like he was created for the cartoon, but everyone referred to him as Clayface, as you know, as if he was the original Clayface. He also had a really fucking cool scene where he said, what did he quote? It only takes one bad day for someone to become a supervillain or something. I forgot the quote.
One rotten day.
Yeah. It's a joke.
Which I mean, in particular with Batman's Rogues Gallery is definitely a thing because literally all of them are just like I was on the receiving end of a weird science experiment one time and now I'm doomed.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dragon Turtle. I agree with you about your your controversial opinion. Detective Yin.
Yeah. They got rid of her after like the 2nd season.
Yeah, I don't know why. I really liked the setup they had for the Batman. I'm glad I'm glad they involved Robin and Batgirl, but I kind of liked the original setup for the first season.
It was really cool. Like it was really cool. Actually, I like that character. One thing, that character has never appeared anywhere else besides the cartoon, Detective Yin.
Detective Yin, yeah.
Yeah.
She was kind of an off-brand Renee Montoya, though. To be fair.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have minded, especially after they started bringing the rest of the Justice League in the later seasons of Batman. If if Detective Yin became the question, that would be cool.
Right. Also, I found out the lady who voiced Detective Yin was played Agent Melinda May in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Also Mulan. The original Mulan.
Right. So actually, I have her. I actually brought that character into my DC CW universe in Gotham Knights by making her the Commissioner. Um,
Violent Night. What is happening? Ugh.
In any case, shall we finish off the trailer there?
Uh,
actually, should I bring it back for Corrupt since
it's on 140 for me.
I know, but we didn't start there. We were watching it while you were gone. So.
No. I think you guys stopped. I thought you guys stopped at 140.
I think we stopped at like what was it, like 1 or something?
All right.
I don't think it was that far back. I think it was about there.
This honestly does look like a sequel to the Batman, which is funny because I think the what is it? The they said they were using Mr. Freeze, but they dropped that for a different villain, didn't they? That's what I heard anyway.
Mm.
I've heard. I've honestly tried not to because this is actually one of those few franchises where I really don't want to like spoil anything for myself.
Well,
I wouldn't mind if they used Mr. Freeze as long as he's closer to the comics than their version of the Riddler was.
yeah, I agree.
That was just a waste of the Riddler, honestly.
It really was. Yeah,
They really could have just made him a new character entirely and not like they could have saved the Riddler for later.
I agree. I feel like they ruined him, honestly. But one thing I think they won't. I talked with another person about this. I think I think they aren't using. I think if they did drop Mister Freeze, it's because like it would be too expensive, and it's just cheaper to use like Calendar Man or somebody, or like just the Joker or
Honestly, I've been waiting for someone to do a decent version of Clock King for a while. Clock King would be a good choice.
He was the only villain that was able to get away from Batman too.
Yeah, I love the original version of Clock King from the animated series. I hated when they brought him back and gave him time powers. Like that was never what made Clock King interesting. The thing that made Clock King interesting was basically that he was kind of an evil Phileas Fogg from Around the World in 80 Days. He was just that good at being efficient that he literally could just like hack the world, basically.
I am the type of person Dalton would hate because I thought he was boring. I just thought he was a boring villain. I love the Riddler, but I thought the Clock King was shit. For me, when I was a kid and I watched him, I just thought he was like a very low budget Riddler. I don't know. I just thought he was.
I really loved that version, the animated series version of Clock King. Clock King was good. But then again, like I say, they brought him back and gave him stupid time powers, and I'm like, that's not at all what makes Clock King cool.
Right.
He's like evil. He's like an evil efficiency expert, and that alone was enough to make him.
Expert. I love that.
Well, that was basically his backstory, was that he was like an actuary or an efficiency expert who went nuts because someone, like, his life was so perfectly ordered and perfectly scheduled, and then someone convinced him to take a day off. But that one day off he decided to take was a really important day, and he missed a court date, and he became essentially almost destitute because of that one bad day, which is a perfect like villain backstory. And then his like efficiency expertise became the source of his villainy, to the point that he had memorized Batman's the time signature of Batman's punches to such a perfect degree that he could always dodge Batman's next attack.
I feel like it goes to, I feel like even doing that goes to a bit, even for a comic book, even for like a super villain a supervillain in a comic book, that's a bit too extreme. Like, people don't punch at a precise time. Like, that's not really how time works, which is why I think it didn't really make his concept doesn't really make that much sense.
It
Like,
it makes perfect sense to me because Batman's like fighting prowess is all about technique, and if you're that obsessed with like fighting techniques, then you would kind of develop a personal rhythm. And if someone is that obsessed with like systems thinking and essentially like efficiency, he could essentially time time you time you in such a way that he could understand your body's rhythm and counter it. Like that makes perfect sense to me.
that
He's
would also assume. What did you say, Dragon Turtle? That would also assume he could do anything about it. I think he's referring to the Clock King, but I'm not sure.
well, if he understands Batman's rhythm enough to counter it, then he doesn't really. And that was also the cool thing about him was that because he was always so in control, because he was so obsessed with efficiency and whatnot, he didn't really have to put much effort into countering Batman. He
So
just knew when to dodge.
you need to know. You need to have Batman's level of martial arts prowess to be able to do that, though. Like, you can know someone's punch, but if your body isn't fast enough to react to it, and you don't have the ability to compete physically at that level, it doesn't matter. He'll still hit you.
I mean, okay, I'll give you that one, but it didn't bother me really.
Like, no, I get you. People still shit on Joker's like straight jacket in the Batman series, and I'm like, no, I think that makes him crazy and cool. So I
Yeah,
get
like
where you're coming
it's
from.
yeah, it's like I understand I understand there's like you can pick it apart if you want to, but I I like the fact that most of Batman's rogues gallery don't compete with him physically because they don't have to. Like
About the only one who really does are like Bane and I guess the monsters. I mean, I guess it's
yeah,
not
I mean
monsters, but
Poison Ivy, I suppose
yeah.
depending on how much control over plants Poison Ivy has, I guess you could call her a physical threat.
I
But
mean,
what
yeah.
but most of the Batman's rogues galleries that I most of the members of Batman's rogues gallery that I like don't even bother competing with him physically because they're so much far they're so much further ahead of him mentally. They don't need to like
Well,
they know they're physically outmatched, so they plan ahead and address it.
yeah, like there's Killer Croc, Clayface, Man Bat, who else? Bane, I guess.
Yeah, I mean Bane is the obvious example because
I
he's
would
the man who
love to
breaks the
see.
bat.
I would just love to see a comic accurate Bane put to film.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think you're ever going to get it because the people who don't know about Bane as a character just know him as the steroid guy.
Yeah,
And
pretty much. They'll just call up. He'll basically either end up as a minion for another villain, like in Batman and Robin, or he'll just be some steroid freak. They
while we're here, speaking of ways that the use of Bane makes no fucking sense.
Talons and Deathstroke. Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, but okay. While we're talking about the way that people use Bane makes no fucking sense, you're telling me that you had '90s era Arnold Schwarzenegger in like the prime of his in like the physical prime of his physicality, and you had Bane in that same movie, and you didn't cast Arnie as Bane.
Also, Bane is for some reason Bane is always used as a henchman. Like in both movies he was in, he was a henchman for a higher power, usually a woman.
Well, I mean, kind of loosely in the case of Batman or in the case of Dark Knight Rises, because he was the primary threat, I think, and Talia being involved, which is kind of I'm also here.
I guess I feel like he was. I guess my point is that he isn't the ultimate
They-
villain. He's
They
like
never
his second
use
villain.
him. They never use him as the main threat, despite him being the one who breaks the bat in the comic.
Yes, exactly. They never use him as the main threat.
But I heard,
He's usually like a puppet for somebody else. What's up?
I'm not disagreeing with you, but if we ever do, I have seen. I don't know if you guys know who this guy is. He's a YouTuber who does like fan casting videos, called Brian Seeker.
Yeah.
Might know who that is.
Um,
Sure.
Well, he pitched like Batman villains and like a Batman, his whole Batman universe idea, were like fan castings. And Dave Bautista, I really could see playing a very accurate version of
Bane?
yeah.
I wouldn't have him be Bane right away. I'd wait for a while to see if he has any dramatic chops as
have you
an
never-
actor.
He has dramatic chops. I think you're just not looking in the right places.
What I mean is I think he needs more practice being a dramatic presence, and then once he
Yeah,
becomes established as that, then have him do Bane. Because the problem with Bane is they always focus on Bane being the dumb brute rather than being who Bane is, which is a mercenary primarily, and his ability to actually engage with Batman on not necessarily an intellectual level, but on a strategic one.
Yeah, Bane
Right.
is actually pretty fucking smart. He's
Anyway, shall we?
Batman.
No.
What do you want from me? To put that gift of yours to work. A Merry Christmas is counting on it. Batman.
Oh, so it was Calendar Man, and Vincent D'Onofrio as Calendar Man. A part of me I could see that actually.
I mean, sure. Honestly, if they ever wanted to do Calendar Man, I'd rather them do Calendar King, the one who has the power to like bring holiday icons to life.
I'm already
Because Batman versus an army of mutant Easter bunnies would be interesting.
I would love for them to make a movie about Doll Man. That would be so fucked up.
Oh, you mean Dollmaker, right?
Dollmaker, thank you. I said Doll Man. I'm sorry, Dollmaker.
Ventriloquist would also be an interesting one,
Dude,
especially if they wanted to go kind of the psychological route with him.
You know, okay, one thing, the writer of the Batman actually wrote a comic called Batman the Imposter. Technically a little offshoot, like a kind of the Batman series. Like it's not in the Batman canon, but it was fun nonetheless. I actually read the whole thing, and they have a interpretation of the ventriloquist in there.
Mm.
Haven't had him like he legitimately just started becoming the ventriloquist with Mr. Scarface.
I thought the ventriloquist was a chick.
No.
There's two. There are two different versions.
Oh, okay, there's the chick and the okay.
Yeah, the first one is Arnold Wesker, I believe.
Yeah, the older mousy looking dude who's actually not right in the head. At all.
Oh, okay. You know why? Because I always thought of the guy who made and puppets Scarface, and I always think of that is like Scarface, and I always think of the ventriloquist as like the woman. So
The ventriloquist is the guy behind the Scarface
yeah.
puppet.
Yeah. There is a female ventriloquist.
When did that mantle get passed?
Not entirely sure. It's been a while. They don't use that character specifically. It's mostly Arnold Wesker they go to for ventriloquist.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever they actually bother using him, because they almost never bother using the ventriloquist.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but there is a second Two-Face. Don't use him either.
I didn't realize there was a second
I
Two-Face.
knew there was a second ventriloquist. I did not know there was a second Two-Face. Are you talking about One-Face?
I don't know. I know there. I just know there is a second Two-Face, but I don't.
Okay.
I haven't looked into it yet.
That I did not know. Anyway,
Okay, 'cause I know there's a One-Face.
But yeah, like
that sounds remarkably stupid.
But One-Face.
Yeah, it's like, let's take the one gimmick that this character has and remove it.
There's a Dr. No Face. It was in the 40s.
Mm.
That was a whole
There's a-
complicated thing.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that guy actually. Sure.
Alright, so let me see. There's a shit. It was on the tip of my fucking brain. Like Batman's villains. Let me see. Out of all of Batman's rogues gallery, I think only a few of them are kind of like the. No, even the Joker. The Joker is weird because sometimes that, like, his interpretation is weird. He either can somewhat match Batman in terms of like just, like average combat capability, or sometimes he can't. It's like I've always found that about the Joker particularly weird.
I always prefer it when he can't, because I prefer a Joker who doesn't have to match Batman physically. Like, even though the Joker is an insane genius, he is still a genius.
I mean, I think like they each kind of have their own niche. You have the Penguin, who's like basically the mafia guy. You have the
Yeah,
Joker,
he matches Batman in terms of money and resources more than anything.
yeah, basically. You have the Joker, who's like the genius, like, and then you have the Riddler, who's kind of the genius but not insane.
Yeah, he's more the puzzle master, which I swear to God, what they should have done with the Riddler, if they really wanted to use the Riddler in the Batman movie, is they should have made him basically like Jigsaw. Like, his puzzles should have literally been death traps.
That would be fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have cost too much money, I bet.
I mean, yeah, but if you're gonna do a version of the Batman with a version of his rogues gallery, then you pony up the money necessary to do it. Is what I'm saying.
I agree with you, but I bet one of the reasons they went for the Riddler is because he's a villain that's kind of obscure.
He's one no one cares about, so we can use him quick and be done with it, and it'll be fine.
And he won't cost a lot of money. Because, like, that they would break the bank if they tried to use, like, Man-Bat or some shit.
Yeah, also, it would be a terrible character to introduce in your first movie, because that Man-Bat is one of Batman's more out there characters, or rogues.
Which it's a shame. I really like Man-Bat. He's fucking
cool. Yeah, no, he's cool.
He's fucking neat. I had his action figure when I was a kid. It made me happy.
I will say that honestly, the first time I ever saw Man-Bat was in the Batman cartoon.
Oh, the Batman, yeah, where he's like this, where he was like this albino bat.
Yeah, dude, that was so cool.
He was. I love Man-Bat. He's so fucking cool. He's one of my favorite villains.
There's also like a tragic, almost like werewolf kind of thing with the character as well.
I like the fact that there's kind of like two different versions of him too. Like, they try to either make him tragic or make him just an asshole who can turn into a bat and uses it to like steal and shit. I love Man-Bat. Killer Croc, I like Killer Croc.
Yeah, Killer Croc is one that I can take or leave. Like, he almost feels like he should be like a Flash villain rather than a Batman villain.
I think it depends on how they write the character. for me for Killer Croc because there are like two versions that I really like. One is Zaz, Victor Zaz. Corona just mentioned him.
Mm.
The Batman, the cartoon version where he is kind of where he takes a lot more attributes from like Bane and stuff.
Yeah, and he transforms because it's convenient for him.
No, I thought he was just born that way.
Oh,
He
him
did.
being able to transform into a bat.
No. I'm talking about Killer Croc.
Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, the version that's kind of the version that I was introduced to growing up, right?
Victor's ass? Oh, did y'all forget the serial killer that is his only claim to it? Zaz something. Oh, you mean Victor's ass, the guy who cuts like victims into his fork.
Yeah, like he tally marks himself every time he gets a kill.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I know people like Victor's ass. He's just kind of
He's a bit of an edgelord for me. Like
I prefer
I'm gonna cut a tally into my skin for every person I kill. Is like yeah, edgelord, go away.
All right, what'd you say, Brandon?
I prefer the version from Gotham.
What's the version from Gotham?
An assassin for the mob that also does it, but he's also like just super funny and like the actor's super charismatic and stuff, and just also he has that condition where like his body cannot grow. Like the actor himself has that condition where he can't grow any body hair, so like he's completely bald, and so like he has almost an uncanny nature to him.
Anyway, shall we finish off the fan film or the trailer for the fan film?
Brainstormer was about to say something.
Well, I was gonna say like that Victor Zaz is funny. Like he's got a like he's like the he's like that kind of villain that you laugh with and enjoy watching, but you are aware that he's still a fucking monster.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Like he's so charming and charismatic that you just can't help but smile even when he's like murdering people. Kind of what they try to do with Joker.
I didn't remember that version of Victor Zaz well enough to weigh in on whether or not I found him funny.
I didn't use him often, so.
I was gonna say I think he might have been in a couple episodes.
Well, no, he was in throughout every season. They just like it was very short appearances, like almost guest appearances.
Yeah, because I don't remember him very well at all.
You remember much of Gotham? To be fair.
I mean, no. To be fair, most of what I remember from Gotham are the Jokers that aren't Jokers but are totally Jokers.
The only thing I remember, oh my god, that reminds me of that terrible like fucking black version of the Joker they did in Batwoman. He was basically this little kid. So he was a kid who got infected with Joker serum, right? And it slowly drove him insane. And then he had like purple dreadlocks. Green dreadlocks. It was the stupidest fucking shit.
That sounds very cringe. I'm so glad I stopped watching Batwoman after season 1. Because we tried to subject ourselves to that. That was horrible mistake number 1.
I mean, like it is really, really bad.
Like Alice was the only enjoyable part of that show for me. Like she was the only person who knew what kind of show she was in and was having fun with it.
It's so, I'm already talked so much about that.
Yeah, let's not dwell on the mistake that was Batwoman again. Anyway, Batnana.
All right. Yeah.
Gordon.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can see
Batman also has a Clayface fan trailer he made. A lot of Batman, the Batman universe trailers he's made.
Mm.
That are really cool. The concept for that one was like basically Russell. They made not Russell Crowe, Kurt Russell Clayface, but like more so in the style of the '40s version of Clayface instead of like the more. I honestly couldn't tell because I think it was like kind of a mixture of both.
I really don't want like a toned down, realistic version of Clayface.
Yeah, I'd rather just make him the clay golem that he's supposed to be, please.
To be completely fair, it was very much ambiguous on the trailer. I'll be honest, whether or not he could transform or not, mainly because it's a fan edited trailer and I don't really think that they could show the transforming.
Mm.
But it was interesting and fun. I would legitimately say look for Soylent Brack 1. That's the
I
animated
thought,
trailer.
I thought you were gonna say Soylent Green 1.
Yeah.
No, it's Soylent Brack 1. I meant that's the name of the channel.
Mm.
I would recommend seeing his stuff. It's really good. Again, his earlier stuff is a little more cruder, as people often are when they first start out on editing stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
keep that in mind. But yeah, like, so yeah, the thing like is Batman is a weird character for me because like growing up, mainly because he was one of the only characters I was introduced to growing up.
Mm.
You know, like the cartoons and stuff. So
Mhm.
back then, I would have said he was my favorite character. But as I've gotten older and I've exposed myself to more like comics and stuff and researched into things, he's not. It's not a character. It's not that I don't consider him one of my favorite characters because he is. He's just not like my number
Just
one.
there are so many other characters to choose from.
What character is this, by the way? What character is this again?
Batman.
Oh, I thought you. I'm sorry. I thought you said Clayface for some reason.
Anyway, I suppose we should call it.
That's one of our shorter ones. Okay. So yeah, with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Fuck off. We have all of 2023 to get through, folks.
Oh, that's gonna be painful.
Yeah.